Chapter 2.
How about that? Holding the slip of paper in the air, Jordan let out a triumphant whoop. A check from Continental News Service. He gloated. Hey, let's see it. Gary was as excited as his older brother. His eyes grew wide as he read the amount. $1,200. Holy cow. The reel of film the boys had taken had proved a sensation. All night long they had watched it flash across the television screen, scarcely believing that it was not some special effects film from a Hollywood studio, rather than the awesome scene that they had witnessed and photographed themselves. No other cameraman, not even a professional newsman, had been able to record the arrival of the monster at the instant of its impact on the American shore. Only the boys and their camera had been in the right place at the right time. The desolation wrought by the tidal wave all along the Atlantic coastline, from Boston to Lower Long Island, filled the news. Countless scenes of flooded streets and twisted bridges were recorded by news photographers who had flown over the inundated coastal towns and beach resorts. But the climactic moments belonged to Jordan and Gary. They relived those terrifying moments as the television special was repeated throughout the evening. Somehow, they had managed to keep the camera in operation while the cliff shook and danced wildly under the savage onslaught of the great wave. For the first time Jordan realized that Gary must have turned the camera shoreward to follow the monster's plunge upon the coast. He had even captured the sight of their Bronco being tossed inland with the shattered trees. It was this last bit of film which showed the height of the wave as well as its incredible fury. Its gigantic size could be measured against the dwarf trees. The check had arrived by special delivery the following morning. Jordan was already making plans to buy another car. "We'll have enough left to run the newspaper for quite a while," he crowed. "Even without a lot of ads." Jordan and his brother were in the office of the Bellbrook Times, a small weekly newspaper left to them by their father when he had died a year earlier. Jordan was the editor, a job which he managed between his classes at the nearby university. A journalism major, Jordan was in his senior year. Gary was about to finish high school. He helped around the print shop and was apprenticed to old Dave Collins, the ink-stained printer who had been like a second father to the boys. Now Dave waggled an old finger under Jordan's nose. "Jordan, you better stash that dough in the bank quick. We're gonna need it if this blasted press breaks down again." "Don't worry," Jordan grinned, "I'm just looking for an old jalopy for a couple of $100. We need it to get around for deliveries, now that the Bronco is gone." Going over to the office safe, he deposited the precious check and took out the little statue. He held it in a shaft of sunlight coming through the office window, watching the rainbow colors that reflected from its polished surface. Dave peered nearsightedly over Jordan's shoulder and scratched his bald head. "Never saw anything like it," he finally said. "I've decided to take it over to the university," Jordan told him. "Maybe Dr. Shaw can tell us something about it." "I'll go with you," Gary offered, but his brother shook his head. "No. You help Dave with the layouts, Gary. I'll be back later in the afternoon. Maybe we'll have a special story to go along with our write-up on the monster." "You can use my car," Dave said. "Isn't much, but it'll get you that far anyway." Benjamin Schur, Ph.D., professor in geology and archaeology at the university, looked up quizzically as Jordan walked into his office with the little statue. A large man, with a massive, sandy-thatched head, a bushy red moustache, heavy nose, and alert, dark eyes that peered around restlessly as he talked. Dr. Shaw was an authority on specimens found in the New England coastal area. Jordan hoped he might shed some light on their strange find. "What have you there, my boy?" the doctor asked in his thin, dry, New England voice. Jordan silently put the object down on the cluttered desk and said, "We found this in the side of Point Key, after the wave." The doctor stared in amazement, savagely chewing on the stem of his unlighted pipe. Jordan waited in silence as the doctor picked up the statue, hefted it, put it down and stared at the ceiling. Well, Doc, what do you think? Never saw anything like it, the doctor said finally. Certainly, isn't from any recent culture living around these parts. How do you suppose it got inside the cliff? Jordan demanded. I tell you, Doc, it was at least 10 feet deep in solid rock. You say you took it out of Point Key? Yes. Well, unless somebody's been playing pranks, that little fellow's been buried in there for a long, long time. How long? Jordan wanted to know. Can't really say. Maybe older than recorded history. The doctor chewed savagely on the pipe's stem. You're kidding, Doc. I mean, how can it be? It's carved so perfectly. And out of quartz. There's nothing much harder than that except diamond. It would take a master craftsman to do this kind of work. The doctor hoisted himself out of his chair and, picking up the statuette, fumbled in the watch pocket of the bright red vest he wore under his sports jacket. He drew out a heavy gold ring, with a large stone in its center. My grandmother's engagement ring, he growled. Holding the ring tightly, the doctor scraped the gem across the bottom of the statuette. He did this several times, then he put the ring back in his pocket and turned to Jordan. Your little find happens to be carved out of something much harder than quartz, my boy. It's a solid chunk of diamond. A diamond? A 6-inch high piece of diamond? Why, that would be larger than any diamond in the world. Jordan's voice shook a little. You may be right, Jordan, the doctor agreed calmly. Of course, we've got to put this thing through tests to see what we really have here. I just tried to scratch it with another diamond, and it seems to test positive. He twisted the little statue in the sunlight so that it sparkled brilliantly. The largest diamond known is the Cullinan, mined in South Africa, he went on. The chunk weighed about 3,100 carats, that's roughly 1.25 pounds, before it was cut and polished. The largest piece remaining weighs 530 carats. Your statuette, Jordan, must weigh easily that much. Dr. Shaw opened a glass cabinet on the wall and took out a dullish red piece of stone. This is corundum, Jordan. Also called ruby. The hardest gemstone next to diamond. A diamond is about 90 times harder. Watch. He scratched the stone across the statuette. The piece of corundum flaked away. Then he again took out the old ring and rubbed it hard across the strange object. A faint line appeared on the edge of the gem in the ring. Not much doubt about it, Jordan. Your little fellow here is either a highly pure diamond or something unknown on Earth that's even harder. Jordan's mind reeled. He took back the statuette and held it out, staring. A diamond, he whispered, still unable to believe it. Gosh, Doc, it ought to be worth its priceless, my boy. It's not only the largest gemstone in existence, but we don't even know how it got in the cliffside, how long it's been there, or who carved it. The doctor stuck his pipe back in his pocket and started for the door. Come with me, he said. Jordan walked after him, still clutching the statuette. Dr. Shaw led him to the office safe and opened it. Better put it in here, Jordan. You may be the richest young man in America at this moment. When the precious find was safely locked away, the doctor said, let's drive out to Point Key. I want to see that rock slide.